If you could take a moment and go to thegrowingbanddirector.com to give at least $5 or $3 a month, and it helps the content continue to be created for you to help our profession grow. Let's go back to our scheduled episode. Excelsior Music Publishing is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast. The new concert band and jazz ensemble music releases from Excelsior Music Publishing are here now and available from wherever you get your band music, featuring works of all levels from an incredible composer roster. Listen, browse, and get inspired at excelsiormusic.com. That's EXCELCIA music.com. Do you spend valuable time all year correcting students' hand position instead of focusing on the music? Thumb Gummy solves this. These simple, cost-effective teaching aids fit on trumpets and trombones to guide the right hand into proper position, reducing tension, improving form, and giving tactile feedback so students can focus on playing, not adjusting. It's easy to use, comfortable, and designed by teachers and players, not just for your beginners, but for older students as well. Join thousands of students and bands already seeing the difference. And keep an eye out for our new clarinet thumb rest coming soon. Visit thumbgummy.com to learn more. That's thumbgummy.com. Tuner Caddy is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast. The Tuner Caddy was created by Mark Casperson, a band director with over 38 years of experience. Like most of us, he was tired of dropped tuners, wasted time, and students fumbling with their gear. So he did what any passionate teacher would do. He invented a solution. Mark designed the original Tuner Caddy after testing 57 different versions. The classic model fits right onto most music stands, holds any tuner, and even has a pencil holder. Then he added the Student Pro, a slimmer, binder-friendly with magnets, so it sticks right to the wire stands. And now there's even the TCT-60M, a full tuner and metronome combo that's transposable and includes a 6-foot mic. Super practical and more affordable than most other options out there. The best part is that these tools don't just help kids stay organized, they actually improve how we teach intonation and tone. Tuner Caddy is being used by some of the top programs in the country, from Texas to Virginia, and it's even been on stage at the Midwest Clinic and Music for All Festival. You can find Tuner Caddy at tunercaddy.com, at local retailers, or through Music and Arts, Sweetwater, and Premier Music Teaching Aids. They even offer support for educators writing grants. Check them out at tunercaddy.com. Aloha and welcome back to the Growing Band Director podcast. This is episode number 275. I'm here with Chadwick Kamei. Chadwick, how are you?
Hi, good. Aloha.
Aloha. Thanks for being here. My first guest from Hawaii. Super excited to have you here. We were just chatting off air and we just spent 20 minutes talking. We should have just started right away.
Yeah,
Could you tell us, for people who don't know anything about you, did you grow up in Hawaii? Are you a product of the
yeah,
Hawaii system?
yeah, I am. I am born and raised in Hawaii. I went to high school here. I went to college. I got my undergraduate, got my master's degree at the University of Hawaii, and just recently I got my doctorate from Boston
Hmm.
University. So, but that's an online program. So I've been teaching, teaching here ever since I started my career. So I'm proud to be a product of Hawaii's music education programs. Um, and one thing I did want to talk about first off in this whole thing was that the different the difference between Hawaiian and well, you, I'm sure like a lot of people when you live in California, you're a Californian. But when you're in Hawaii, not everybody is Hawaiian.
Correct.
Hawaiian is a race, and we get that confused a lot. And I'm glad we have this opportunity to kind of put it out there that, I'm Japanese American. I was born and raised here, but I'm not considered a Hawaiian because again, that's the ethnicity. So we call it kama'aina, which
Mhm.
means, from the land. So
And you know
that's
that if you
that's
ever
kind of the
if you
term.
ever try to go golfing there, the Kama'aina rate and the not Kama'aina rate
Yeah.
is
Well,
drastically
and
different.
and the hotel
Yeah,
rates.
I mean, I remember I had a friend who was a military veteran, so we'd get on the military golf courses for like $15, but then
Yeah.
the rate for the visitors was like 90. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
big, big difference. So
Yeah.
where did you grow up? What school did you go to when you were in high school? And
Yeah, so I grew up on the north side of Oahu, so in Kaneohe, it's the windward side.
yep.
It's a kind of rural area. Um, but my family still lives there. My grandma, and my parents still live in Kaneohe. So yeah, it was. to get to town, you have to go through the tunnel. And back in
Mhm.
the 80s and the 90s when I was going to school, like that was a big thing to like, oh, if you're it's like a day trip. If you're gonna go over into Kanyo, if you're gonna go into town, it's gonna, you gotta make plans.
Is
So
that the Ko'olau Mountains?
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
you'd
like
have to go through that.
that bridge is something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The tunnels through there, and now there's three, and then the last one they've made is probably the prettiest one. You come out of the tunnel, and then you can see the ocean in
Mm,
Kaneohe and the bay, and you overlook the military base, and it's pretty. It's a pretty sight. So every time I drive into Kaneohe, it's just like, oh man, it's missing. I'm missing that because I live in
yeah.
town now. So
And it's actually not
yeah.
that far away, but there's a huge mountain range in the middle. So,
Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, people just don't think it is only 20 minutes, but it takes a lot of effort to get over on the other side. So there wasn't like going back, there wasn't a lot of opportunities
mm,
to do music when I was I mean, on our side of the island, we always had to go to the university. We always had to go on to the other side. So for us for us to be able to participate in all these extra events, it took a lot of willpower to
mm.
get there. Yeah.
And it's just funny that sort of my story and your story kind of overlapped. What year did you graduate undergrad?
I graduated in 2002 on
2002.
the University of Hawaii.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like the year before, this was a funny story about me. I was at University of New Hampshire, which is as un-Hawaiian as you can get. And but my parents live in Hawaii Kai, which is on Oahu. So, the people at UNH were very gracious and let me actually student teach in Honolulu. And I was observed by UH and I went to the UH seminar with Barbara McLean. And like this was great. I learned a lot of lessons along the way. And it turns out we were just 1 year apart. And I ended up having to leave because they had a strike that year that was for the university professors and the public school teachers.
Yep.
So I kind of like ran back and jumped to Dover, New Hampshire, and was able to finish. It's funny how like that I just remember all that. It was
Yeah.
such a great experience, and that my time there was super awesome. Um,
Yeah.
so when you left, where did you start teaching when you got your master's degree?
So actually I started teaching right after I got my undergraduate. So I
Okay.
started teaching back in Kaneohe actually at my old intermediate school because the principal was my former principal when I was a student there.
Mm,
So she ended up hiring me. My mom actually taught at the school too. So it was kind of neat, lunchtime would come, I'd walk over to her classroom, we'd have
mm.
lunch together, and that made her happy, and I got free lunch.
There you go.
And so I taught there for 4 years. And then I moved over to Pearl City High School, where I've been here for next year is going to be my 20th year at Pearl City High School. So it's been a long ride. I still remember the first year when I got here. It feels like it was just yesterday, but it's been 20 years. So I've been teaching for about 24 years already.
I love that. And some people who don't know, maybe you're not familiar with the schools in Hawaii. The open air school is like a thing there,
Mhm.
right? Here,
Yep.
this like you're in a building and you're in the hallway. That I love the open air thing because like you walk out of the classroom and you're just in the air, right? Because it
Yeah.
never gets below a certain degree and never gets above.
Yeah, yeah. So it's nice, except for the days that it's pouring rain. We've had a few days this year that's been pouring rain, but it's yeah, it is really nice. We took our band. Pearl City just went to the what is it, Magnificent Mile Lights Parade in Chicago this past November.
Mm.
So we went to John Hersey High School, and we did our rehearsal there. And when the kids, it's all in one building. Like, they couldn't fathom that everything was connected. They were so impressed, like that everything is climate controlled. So once you got in there, you didn't have to put on your jacket every time you walked out of the classroom. They were thrilled.
My dad, who's lived in Hawaii since 1999, he says, yeah, the people here are upset if the high temperature of the day changes more than 1 degree per day. Like
Yeah.
it's 82, 82, 82, 83,
Yeah.
81. Like that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Just that consistency, is something
Yeah.
that's just part of being there.
Yeah, yep, yeah. Well, we don't. I think most of it. most people don't like it when it gets past the low 60s. They're just like,
Mhm.
ooh, it's cold.
That's awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about the Pearl City program that you run? What activities you guys do, what bands and all that?
Yeah. So at Pearl City, we have three concert bands. We have a jazz band. We also have our marching band. So we have a pretty robust band program here
Yeah.
out in Pearl City. Before the pandemic, we probably had actually, we're getting pretty close to what we had pre-pandemic. So we're probably about 175, 180. We're hoping to be back, back over 200 in the entire band
Mm.
program at some point. But COVID did take its toll out here. So
Okay.
it's just taking a while to get back. And there's some Department of Educational um, decisions that are made that makes it a little bit harder. We're starting to form academies. We're going through these academy models here in Hawaii, um, which is geared more towards job training and things like that. So it makes it a little hard for the students to be able to put band into their schedule.
Hmm.
Our school and the DOE program tries its best to do that to have the kids be able to do these extracurricular activities, well, the co-curricular and extracurricular
Sure.
activities, but it just, kids are just having to make decisions now about, what class that they're going to be in. So, yeah.
So and who teaches with you in the band program at Pearl City? I assume you're not the only
Um,
teacher.
Yeah, I have two teachers. One's name is Christopher Lotsuka. He's a former student, 2010. So he was here when I first started teaching, and now he's back. He got his, undergraduate, and he's teaching with me. He just got married last year, and he welcomed his daughter into the world, this past November. So he totally leapfrogged over me on that. And then we have another director here is Chris Lopez. He's our percussion instructor, and he teaches things like guitar, music technology, piano. Um, yeah, and so we have a good thing going on here with the three of us. The two of them, they're both named Chris. Both of them are alumni. Um, they're Chris, the guitar teacher, the drumline instructor is, he and I are about the same age. So, but the two of them are both alumni from Pro City. So it's really nice to have alumni giving back to the program because when the new students come in, a lot of them, they know their parents.
Mhm.
So it gives us a little insight into, okay, who we can put on certain in certain committees and say, oh, that person's gonna be a good sewer, that person's gonna be a good fundraiser, they did this in high school. I say, okay.
Um, I assume so is your concert band curricular and then the jazz program and marching band are after school?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So concert band runs all year long during the day, and marching band is after school in the fall, and then in the spring we run Chris Otsuka actually runs the jazz band in the fall after school.
Yeah. I love that. So can you tell us a little bit about some other programs? Like, I'll just say briefly, I only know a little bit from the time that I was there, and that was over 20 years ago. I spent 1 month with Gayla Trailer, who I knew lived in Kaneohe at the same time. She was at K to 2 at Kamehameha.
Yep, yep,
And I was
yeah.
her general music teacher, helper, student teacher. And then
Oh,
I was telling you, I went
okay.
to Waipahu High School
Yeah.
with Joe Pacheco. And for people who don't know those schools, those are very different socioeconomic
Yeah,
situations.
yeah.
But the spirit of the people, no matter how much money they had or not had, like there was great musicians. I was telling you, like, we both know of Abe Lagrimas. Like he
Hmm.
was, I think he was a senior as a drummer, and like he was already sponsored by Paiste, and I come in as like this little student teacher, and this guy is just killing. Um,
Yeah.
so like I only know those situations. Um, can you speak to, you were talking off air a little bit about, you know, uh, all the different programs on the island of
Yeah.
Oahu, at least.
Yeah. Well, I think also one of the things about Hawaii is that of course a lot of our people um that are directing bands here at the school level are graduated from the University of Hawaii,
Hmm.
so we all kind of know each other. We all have gone through the same training. And so a lot of the programs here, I think per capita are pretty strong. We don't have even the schools out all the way in Waianae, which is like a total Title I school. I just went to their concert this past week, and they just let this past month, and they knocked it out of the park.
Mhm.
They did some great pieces. Um, and they sounded great. They had nice lows. They had the clarinet was so characteristic clarinet sound. I was just totally impressed with what they're doing out there. So, you know, it doesn't matter if you're at Punahou or you're at these Title I schools out in the country, like everybody's getting a pretty good music education. And because we're on a small island, in a small state. So I think everybody knows each other, everybody kind of keeps up on Facebook with each other. And so it's hard to see other people doing stuff and you not do stuff. So I
Mhm.
think there's that portion where everybody's like, oh, okay, they're doing this, so I better step up my game or and things like that.
I remember the traffic. I mean, people who've never been to Hawaii like might not know it, but and I know people on the other islands too, right? Like they look at Honolulu
Yeah.
and they're like, "Ooh, don't get me started," right? Because it's so like I was going
Yeah.
from the east side of the island to the west, and it's like
Yeah.
I left at like 5:45 because if I left at
Yeah.
6:30, I'd be getting there the same time.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. It's worse now, but it's worse now.
Yeah.
But they do have a rail system that's still trying to be completed, and hopefully that alleviates some of the traffic congestion. I'm
Yeah.
hoping it does. But I want to go back to Gala Trailer.
Yeah.
You and me have had like there's just been so many like so I was teaching at Kamehameha Middle School. Um, from 1999 to 2002 about. I was
Wow.
helping the middle school band director, Roy Miyahira, and he taught, I mean, you guys are Gala's classroom
Yeah.
was right next to door to it.
Wow.
And so I interacted with her a lot because we see each other, and I was helping Roy, and then after Roy became Paul Sato.
Hmm.
Um I don't know where if you were no, I think Paul was there actually.
That's what I
Sato was there.
remember. I don't think we ever talked. The only thing,
Yeah.
and I was a snobby college kid. Like you think differently when you're a college education student,
Yes,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
when you've been teaching a while, like you just know different things, right? And I wasn't.
yeah.
It just is what it is. I remember going by and hearing his metronome going, and I
Yes,
and I
yeah,
was
yeah,
thinking, I'm never going to use a metronome with my band. Like blah blah blah
yeah.
blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Well, I was wrong. He was right.
I mean, so Paul ended up retiring about 5 years ago, and now he comes to help me 5 days a week here at Pro City High School, or 4 days a week at Pro
Mm,
City. And it's just like you and I have had so many instances where we should have met at some point, but
yeah.
I guess this is the
And
medium that we're going to meet in now.
so another question, how close is Pearl City to the swap meet at Aloha Stadium?
Oh, about 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
What town is that in? Is that Salt Lake?
It's in Salt Lake, Aiea.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of
So
those. And tell people about the Hawaiian alphabet too.
oh there I'm not very good at that
Aren't
stuff.
there like 14? There's only 14 letters and
I think there's
all the
14
vowels and
letters and all the vowels, yeah.
yeah.
And and like which I guess what you're alluding to is Aiea, which is it's a city in Hawaii that's just made up of vowels.
Was it A?
Aiea.
Yeah.
Aiea. Yeah.
I remember driving by that. I'm a kid from like South Portland, Maine, and I'm so like, how do you where's the consonant in this word?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there's a good joke for like when we were in high school about the tourists driving by Aiea, and they're like, "How do you say that?" And they're like, "Oh, they say that Aiea," and then they drive up for more to North Shore, and they pass this sign, and they're like, "Oh, so is that Pipeline?" It's like, "Oh no, that's pipeline."
Pipeline, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or the Like Like Highway,
Right, right, right.
which is named after I think one of the one of the chiefs, here. Um, but a lot of people like, hey, that says like. No, that's Like
Yeah.
Like.
It's hard because like when you go there for the first time, you realize that this is really as far as you're going to get, like as close as you're going to come to being in another country while still technically
Yeah.
being in the US. I mean, what I loved about it was knowing what is there like all the different types of population, all the different ethnicities there. There's like nobody was more than 30%,
Yeah.
between all the Pacific, the conglomerate of people. You're right. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
a kind of a melting pot.
Yeah. It's 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 good. We get so much different um we have so many different types of people here, and different cultures, and it's great that it's able to be in one place. Um yeah, so and we get to take the best of everything. Yeah.
So when my
So
wife, another shared experience, when my wife and I've told this experience on the podcast that in 2010 we went to the Eugene Corporon clinic. They called it the Conductors Collegium right down at University of North Texas, and we're doing this, and all of a sudden we meet somebody named Kent Sato, and he said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Oh, I teach, on Oahu and Hawaii," and we're like, "Oh, this is amazing. We've been there a bunch. My family lives there. Blah blah blah." And oh, we're actually going next month. So literally, we left the UH and we had talked, and then like 3 weeks later, we showed up to Hawaii, and he took us out for a day. Like he
oh,
took us out.
nice.
What's the famous? My wife, I just talked to her this morning about this. She's like, yes, he brought us the first time I had malasadas was with Kent. He brought us to this certain place. I don't know if there's like a famous malasada place.
Leonard's. Did he
Sounds
take
right.
you to
Yeah,
Leonard's?
yeah,
Yeah, it's right on Kapahulu. Yeah.
yeah.
That's where everybody goes. Now the tourists are starting to go there, so
Oh no.
it's the lines are long.
Yeah, it was
Lines
one
are
of those.
long.
It just I could get like the Hawaiian spirit. I could feel it. Like he was just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're coming? Let me meet you, and
Yeah.
let's take you around." It's just Hawaii is a different place from anywhere else. Like if you go
Yeah.
to Mexico on vacation or you go to Jamaica, like Hawaii is just if you have never been there, be ready for like a completely different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just happy people make the journey. I mean, it's a long trip to get out here.
Hmm.
It takes a lot of effort, and so we're just happy when bands come out here, when friends and family come out this way. So, or people that have shared interests, like bands and things like that. So, it's interesting. You talk about Kent, and Kent was teaching here at Pro City High School. Until he decided to go to Damien. So I taught with Kent for a year. He was director of bands here at Pro City, and then he decided to go to private school. So like I said, we have so many, there's so many like common threads, it's between us. I'm just surprised that
Yeah.
it's taking us this long to meet.
We were talking about the microclimates within Oahu, because you have the mountain and it goes right to the beach and like
Mhm.
goes from rainforest to desert and all that. So my brother lived in Eva for a while, right? And anybody who knows
Okay.
anything about Eva, you think two things:
Yeah.
hot, it's hot, and traffic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um so and now in Kapolei is kind of like out in that on that way as well.
Yeah.
um I don't remember, when did the West Oahu campus start?
The campus opened up in 2014.
Okay.
So it was, but it's been in existence since the 70s, but it was part of Leeward Community College. So it was on the same campus. It was weird. It was on the same campus, but there was like these separate buildings on the campus that housed the classes for West Oahu, UH West Oahu. And then in 2014, they finally got enough money to build an actual campus. I mean, there's about five buildings out there. But there's about five buildings, and they have a pretty good sized population, but it's still a commuter campus. Um it's taking some time to get to capacity and things like that. But they have a great chancellor, they have great administration, super supportive faculty, and it's a great environment for the kids. Yeah.
So when did you start teaching there?
Well, I started right at that in 2014, actually. Um, when the campus opened up, that's when I approached the lone music professor, Dr. John Magnuson. I asked him, "Hey, would you guys be interested in forming a band? I think it would be great to have a band out there." And we started. Um, there's no place on campus for us to actually hold rehearsals. There's not a space big enough. So actually, lucky enough, we're able to run the course here at Pearl City High School.
Oh,
So I don't have to travel out there. You
Even
know,
better.
yeah. Well, I think the best thing about it is that, you know, the student, we also have high school students participate. So from around the area, high school students, I mean, students can come from across wherever. We once had students coming from Kaimuki coming out this way. So um but the for me the best thing is that, you know, the high school students can participate in it, and you know my students are getting to participate sitting next to band directors,
Mm.
other band directors, and you know, musicians that are at the university and things like that. So their skills at our school are just ramping up so quickly. Yeah.
I heard a portion of the YouTube video you guys did before Midwest. I was blown
Oh,
away. I'm like, man, that's a
yeah.
band, all right. Holy
Yeah.
smokes.
Yeah, I mean, we started in 2014 with like 30 people,
Mm.
and like most of it were our students, my students from Pro City High School. And what really happened was after COVID, um, we just kind of had a reset after COVID. And I mean, we were fine before. We were like 40 people, and it was like a grade two and a half, three, you know, kind of ensemble that could play those kind of pieces more if we really pushed it. But then now after COVID, we, you know, we're at 100, we're like pushing 100. One
Mm.
semester we had like 140 people, which was way too many people. But it's just so um it, you know, when people say like, oh, bands are not the same anymore, the band culture is, you know, people are not as interested in bands anymore. It's like, yeah, we had 140 people want to be a part of this
Yeah.
in the community. It's like lifelong musicians. Like we have people in their 70s, you know, 60s and 70s, people that never thought they were going to pick up their instrument after they played their last note in high school, you know, they're picking up their instrument again and saying, wow, I never thought I'd be able to do
Mm.
this. We have people that are playing next to their own children who are in band. And so that's really heartwarming. Like,
Mm.
well, you know, two generations of musicians performing on the stage, you know, stuff that they can't normally, you know, they wouldn't have a chance to do that before, you know, they can do that now. It's like saying you're going to have a father and son be playing football together on the same team, you know?
Yeah, right.
It's like it's like that's not going to happen. But you know, this is one medium that you know, families can pass on their musical lineage, I
So
guess.
is everybody there also getting credit like through UH?
So that they have opportunity to. So like a lot of the teachers are getting their professional development credits through that.
Mhm.
And if you're not, if you're just a community member and you just want to play, you're just part of the community group.
Okay.
You're you know, you're just considered a community member.
Okay,
So,
so a burning question that's come up as somebody, okay, so I'm interviewing somebody here who's taken a band, community band, basically, right? Community, college, high
mhm.
school band of 30 to 140 and now back down and all that. When you're mad you have too many people, that means you're good at growing a band program, right? So, like, I think a lot of us understand how to teach middle school kids, how to teach high school kids. Like, the minute you're teaching somebody who's as old as your parents, somebody
Mhm.
with more life experience than you, it's an entirely different skill set. So I guess my question is, how do you approach teaching community members who are your elders, right? And then how do you
Yeah.
also teach them at the same time as you have one of your high school trumpet players next to them?
Um, you know, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like we're lucky in a sense where a lot of the musicians that are older either were either really strong players or their children were in our band program. So automatically they'll be like, okay, you know, whatever you say, we're gonna do, you know.
Hmm.
So it's not as daunting as I feel it is, I think. I think in we've been doing it for over 10 years now. So I think being able to do that you do have to put it palatably. Like you can't just say, "Hey, that's you're playing terribly." It's actually the community band has a very nice feel to it as far as things are very positive.
Hmm.
It's not so much like your tone is terrible. It's like, oh, can we get a warmer? Like we need a little bit warmer sound. It's a great sound you're getting, but I think we can round the edges out a little bit more. Like let's try that. Or, can you double check that rhythm over there? I think it's okay, but I think it's not like totally exact yet. And then they'll go look at it and say, oh, okay, yeah. So being able to be like, I guess, being able to phrase things in a positive way
Yeah.
is the best solution, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I remember one time I subbed for a conductor at a community band.
Yeah.
I was subbing for a conductor and I came in and I was like, I'm used to teaching trombone players who were 14, 15, 16. And this guy had been playing the trombone for 80 years. Like had been playing the trombone for 80. I'm like,
Yeah.
I, and his tone sounded like he'd been playing for 80 years, like he could
Yeah.
play, but he was obviously much older and like that it's just
Yeah.
a different dynamic and I totally respect. So then you guys played at Midwest this past year. And I remember
Yes.
leaving because I was at the Excelsior booth, like with the podcast stuff. And like I remember walking out and seeing, did you have like hula dancers and like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember seeing that
Yeah.
being like I was kind of chicken to like come up and like I didn't want to be that guy
Yeah.
to like start the conversation, but that's super cool that you guys played at Midwest. How was that? First of all, you went to Chicago twice within 2 months from Hawaii. Like that's not a little that's not a little thing.
Yes, yes, yeah. Well, the genesis of that was that Pearl City, we haven't traveled since 2017 or 2018, 2018. And I felt like the kids they need to travel. Traveling is so important, especially for Hawaii. Like half of the kids, maybe not half, maybe a little bit less than half, have never been off the island before. And um through the traveling too, I realized that after COVID, the paradigm of traveling is so different. Like the kids are not used to traveling as a group. They're um COVID was really about individual, keeping yourself and your family safe, which is, totally understandable at the time. But now it's like, hey, we're a little back, we're back into kind of a normal world now. And um, but they're still just thinking about their own um responsibilities, I guess, and making sure so for example, it's like kids not getting up in time to come down for breakfast. It's like, well, why didn't you tell your roommate, wake up? It's like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do. I'm like, before that, we would never have any issue, and that
Mm-hmm.
it's just these things that they don't, they just weren't brought up uh during a time, or they're just, when they were when COVID was happening, which is 5 years ago, these kids, our freshmen were in fourth grade. So, they weren't thinking about anybody else. I don't expect any elementary school student to be thinking about anybody else except for themselves,
I also want to point out that you're a real trooper because we're doing this on your final day of school. You could have said,
Ah.
"Hey, I'm gone for 2 months. I'll see you. I'll see you later." So, like, I know this is coming out in July, but you're doing this on your last day of school. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, in Maine, most of the year the weather's terrible. I mean, unless you like to ski, like we're dealing with snow and all this. But you always have the beach not too far away. So, like, is that a deal? Like the weather's so nice, or is it just that's the kids are so just what it is, so it's not. I would think that like especially those programs that are like a couple miles from the beach, like that might be hard.
I think back in the 80s and the 70s and maybe even the 90s, it was kind of oh yeah, we're not making band practice, we're going to go to the beach. But I think the kids nowadays have so many things to do, so many different things to do that um it is beautiful, but I don't see the kids going to the beach as much as they used
That's
to.
okay. That's
Which
probably
is
it's
great.
good they're not skipping school. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
At least the band kids aren't. I can't
Yep.
say about the rest of the student body, but at least the band kids aren't.
I'll also say one thing I remember about my time in Hawaii. I was able to conduct on one concert with the Waipahu band, and I
Mhm.
remember the concert dress there, at least with that band, was like a business. What does it call an aloha shirt with dress pants.
Oh,
Like
okay.
like where we're from, it's like tuxedo all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
time, and there it was like such a different vibe.
yeah,
Yeah, I assume that
yeah.
that varies from program to program on the island.
It does. It does. Like so Joe Pacheco had ended up retiring several years back. And so now the new director, I think their uniform is tuxedos. They've gone to tuxedos. And it just depends on what the students can afford. I think Joe also used it as his marching band uniform, so just a uniform
Okay.
that they could use, for any sort of event that they had. So
They
yeah,
also they also they also gave me a lei for that concert, and I was like, man, this is hot. One
yeah,
of those nice leis is not.
it is. Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. It gets pretty warm when you have, especially as you go higher.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question that I think some band directors have a hard time answering because I'm sure you have respect for all the band directors on the island. We haven't even talked about anything off Oahu yet. I don't know if we have a place to talk about that or not. But um, if you were to, I'll ask this question in two ways and see where you come up with it. If you had like a couple openings in your band program and you could hire two new band directors from Oahu and you could pull anybody you want in, who would you want to teach with? And another way of asking that question is like, can you mention one or two band directors that you think just do a fantastic job with what they're given?
Oh, well, I guess I have a question back. Does that have to be currently teaching
Nope.
or,
No.
can it be
Anybody you
from
want to
the
hire?
past?
Anybody you want to highlight?
Oh, so the two people that I wish that I could be here with would be Michael Nakasone, who was my predecessor here at Pro City High School. I mean, he's the first director from Hawaii to bring a band to the Midwest Clinic. He is the first high school director that in Hawaii that had been voted into the ABA, became an elected member of the ABA. He's done so much for the band community here in Hawaii. And I'm lucky I get to work with him in capacity because he co-directs with me for the University of Hawaii West Oahu band. But to get Nakasone back in his prime time in the 90s, like how he rehearsed his music is very different from, I'm sure, from how he's doing it now. He'd be one that I would love to see in his prime. And the other one is Henry Miyamura. Henry Miyamura was the orchestra director at the University of Hawaii for a long time, but he came from McKinley High School.
Yep.
So back in the 60s, like the McKinley High School band was the standard in Hawaii. Um, my Henry went to Mr. Miyamura was went to Eastman. So he's one of the first, people that went to Eastman. He played in the ensemble under Frederick Fennell,
Wow.
So it's like, he has this lineage that, I really didn't know um, I later on in the years, until I graduated and started working, talking to people. I was like, wow, he actually played under Fred Fennell. And you know, Richard Lum, who was the director also at McKinley High School, and then became the director of bands at the University of Hawaii for a long time. He went to Northwestern and I think he studied with Glenn Cliff Bainham.
Wow.
It's just like, who would have thought in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, like we have pedigree from, Glenn Cliff Bainham, Fred Fennell, like
Wow.
it's just, yeah, it's
And for
kind of
people
amazing.
and for people who don't know, Hawaii is far.
Yeah,
It's not like an hour outside of California. When you get to
yeah,
California from Boston, you're halfway there.
yeah.
It's it's not close. Going back to Michael, when you talk about how he rehearsed the band in the 90s, like what comes to your mind about like why he was successful as a rehearser?
Well, I think he wouldn't give up. Like from Chris Lopez, who's our percussion instructor, was in the band that went to Midwest as a student, and he said, I mean, we rehearsed every day. He took us to a band camp, and that's all we did was for that week was just play our music. And how he was able to keep the kids engaged, for that whole semester. I mean, he was the first. I mean, it still blows my mind. He was the first band to go to Midwest from Hawaii. I can't imagine how intimidating it was.
Mm,
And then and then they were the Friday night band, which was supposed to be the prime spot for the ensembles when it was back in the Hilton.
right.
Um, so I can't imagine the pressure that he was under and what he felt during that time. I mean, if you go back and you look at that program, I don't think that program will ever be accepted again for for a Midwest performance. I think they started off with like Toccata and Fugue, and they ended with Capriccio Italiano. I mean, like he did like all five and sixes. It was just kind of impressive. I'm like, oh, how did you do all this?
Mm.
Yeah. And people still talk about it to this day.
Do you, I know, I don't know if I prepared you for this question and you might have moved on in your brain. Can you name a couple of the pieces that you guys performed at Midwest this past year?
Yeah, one of the two pieces that stick out in my mind. The first one was I was lucky to conduct was Viet Quang's Shared Spaces, and that was one of the first times we've got to uh, I think it's one of the first times that that piece has been played in Hawaii. And it was a challenge for it's a community group, right? They're really used to ABA style. Um, and if you listen to that shared spaces, it's very different from what's in their wheelhouse. And I was so impressed. It took a while for us to really firm it up, but when we got to the stage, and we played through that piece, it was magical. Like that was one of the highlights of my like career. Like
Mm,
I could feel the ensemble just really digging into it. I mean, I remember saying right before we got on stage, it's like really just thank you for we played through the shared space, and I just remember feeling so grateful and just telling the ensemble like thank you for just sharing this space with me for these last like 5 or 6 months. I know it's been a lot, but just we couldn't do this without each and every one of you, and you guys just truly this piece um, really sums up like what we had to do throughout the season. It's like these voices come in and out through that piece, and it's not just one thing. There's not just one line being played by an instrument that you follow. It's kind of like it felt like pointillism. Like,
mm,
okay, the melody goes from the flute to the trumpet on the second beat, and then the trombone on the third beat, and so it kind of represented what we went through. It's like, all of us are important, but none of us are important.
mhm.
And and not everybody can take the limelight at the whole time. It was just it was a magical that was a magical performance to me. And I was just so grateful that Viet um we wanted Deciduous. I was like, I need Deciduous. Deciduous got taken,
Yeah, I saw
and I
that
called,
performance.
yeah. And then I sent a email to Viet, and I'm like, I really want to do one of your pieces. Um, what else do you have? And because whatever I saw in his catalog, I'm like, it's been done already. It wasn't available to be performed. And he said, I just finished this. I'm doing some rewrites. This might be of interest to you. And it was just, like this interview, there's something magic that happens in the universe that all of this comes together at
Yeah.
some point, like, yeah.
I,
And then sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So the second piece that I thought was really important for us was the Ayala A, which was we opened with. That's by James David. And this is one of the first,
Can you spell it with all the vowels?
yeah, Eala.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's called Ayala A, Arise and Awaken. It's by James David. And he was commissioned by Ricky Badua. Ricky Badua is oh man, 2004. I, I think he might be a 2004 graduate of Kamehameha schools. He's the director of bands at Cal Poly Pomona. And I feel like he's one of the first Native Hawaiian band directors to teach at the collegiate level. And so Um, the story is that we were at Midwest in 2001, and we're outside the Murphy Music Press booth, and he said, "You know, Chad, whenever we're going to see a piece of old Hawaiian songs, old Hawaiian melodies and things like that, that represents me." And I said, "Well, we got to do it. If we want it, we're gonna have to put it out there." And so we started talking and figuring out how we can put this together and who we could use, and ended up, he led the commission. He's Hawaiian, he's native Hawaiian, so I thought it was important for him to lead the commission. And he brought James David into Hawaii. He introduced him to significant people in the culture, musicians as well as cultural practitioners. And really, he kind of came up with a system about how to create authentic music, authentic Hawaiian music, without having to be without being native Hawaiian. And I think it's really important because right now there is no, composer at the level that Jim is, or Frank Kelly and stuff like that. So um, it's that the music will not be heard until somebody gets to that level. So how
Mhm.
do we make that people? How do we get the music out there? And this was one of the ways that Ricky thought this would be appropriate. He talked with people, the cultural practitioners, people that are his friends, and everybody got behind it. The consortium for this ALA is all people from Hawaii, or people with ties to Hawaii. They went to school here. They teach here, and so that was really important too. And so um, the ALA, we did just the first movement, and it's the chant, the ALA chant, the Arise and Awake chant that that's in the melody and that thing. And so he talks about the Haleakala and this kind of is ascending the mountain and things like that. So, and then the second movement is beautiful too. We weren't able to do the second and third movement, but the second movement incorporates some of Lilio Kalani's music, the slow piece, Ku'upua I Pau Kalani, as well as the Queen's Prayer he has inside there. So, I mean, Jim did just an amazing job with this, and we're hoping that it gets played a lot. Um, tomorrow I leave for Japan,
Oh,
and I'm going to visit my friend Terry Austin, Dr. Terry Austin. He's the former director of bands at Virginia Commonwealth, and he past president of the American Bandmasters Association. So he's conducting the Musashino School of Music in Japan, and they're going to be performing ALA in
mm.
July. So I'm bringing some of the uh, Hawaiian instruments that they need, and bring that over and just kind of watch and observe some of the rehearsals. So, we got one in Japan. I hear that there might be one in Asia, Southeast Asia. I'm not sure if it's Singapore or Thailand, but there's going to be another premiere of that at some point, I think this summer.
Well, what I'd like to do, since you've talked about it so much, is we're going to put a recording of you guys playing that piece on this podcast. Is that okay with you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's pause for a second. We're going to put that recording in. Let's take a listen to it.
hala i pala i lole i te kai maka ele ele wale i kian. I ila ke ki na ui ola mahu moku me wai oli. Makani lawe lawe ka puni o liu. Ka hea ka ngau makama e. E mau mani hini ka ua ka hale nei la e. E hoi mai. Ai. Aloha kākou.
So Chadwick, in addition to that piece, tell us a little bit more about like other authentic Hawaiian music that might be available for concert band.
Well, one of the things is connection is really important, I feel. Um, how that piece was genesis is a really important part about the authenticity of the piece. So there are several out there, you can search YouTube. And to me the most important thing is when I look at it, it's to see like who helped genesis this piece. So I think there's a Spirit of Aloha by Brian Balmages that was created in conjunction with one of the New Valley Middle School
Mm,
band, and Wayne Fanning is their conductor. Um, there's also I think Volcano by David Schaefer that that was created in conjunction with Kuale Arceo, who is a band director on the Big Island of Hawaii. So, those pieces to me as having authentic roots, having roots in the culture is really important. I think for us here, I feel like a lot of us will say, yeah, when you have a piece that says based on my trip to Hawaii, I just loved the sun and the surf and just it's so superficial that it kind of just makes it like, okay, you just want to talk about you and your um whatever your fantasy trip
it's like
was.
the ABC store version of it, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, but ABC is also at least ABC is owned by a Hawaii born and raised person.
Okay. For people who
But
don't know,
I
like
get
the ABC
yeah,
store is on every corner and you go in and you get the
yeah,
towels and the hat and the
yeah.
sunscreen and yeah.
Yeah. But I know what you're getting at though. Yeah,
There,
but it's exactly like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's another piece I would throw in, and I don't I'm not saying it's authentic Hawaiian, it's not, but it's about Pearl Harbor.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if you know the Brian Balmage's piece called Tears of Arizona or Tears of Arizona, I think it's called.
No, I've seen it. I haven't listened to
I have
it.
to
Yeah,
say,
but
like I did it with my grade three band, and it's a grade one and a
yeah.
half.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
like it's a lyric piece with like a bad, like a prideful spirit in the middle of it. It was just
Yeah.
a great way. Again, there was nothing in it. I don't think that was Hawaiian, but it was a way to
Mhm.
sort of like talk about Pearl Harbor and kind of study that
Yeah,
with the students.
yeah. And I think those things are really important. And I think they're um I- like that piece about the Tears of Arizona, I think that's really significant as far as that the location and the event and the space that they're talking
Mhm.
about. Um, some of the pieces that really I don't critique that much, but when I do think about it and I look at it, it's like, could we change that title to, celebration in, I don't know, in um the Caribbean or something, like if you can interchange titles like that and it wouldn't make people flinch, then to me that's like, okay, that's just that wasn't created for
Mhm.
something local. If we
Well,
yeah.
one of the imagery parts of that piece is the beginning and the end is like this really pretty low flute sound, and
Mhm.
it does sound like sorrowful. And
Yeah.
he mentions about when you're on the USS Arizona, over it,
Yeah.
and you see
Yeah.
the oil dripping. Like that is what he's
Yeah.
referring to as the tears of Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really like seeing that, and I know he was moved by that experience and that piece. I mean that time and that space. So I do think that's a pretty authentic piece.
Hmm. I wouldn't
So
call it Hawaiian music, but definitely of the subject.
no. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So
well,
I just get suspicious when you can interchange titles and it wouldn't matter. I don't think, we think about that enough. It's like, well, does that really have to do with that? I mean, can we
yeah.
change it to something else?
Well, just because it's fast and fun and it's called surfing doesn't mean it's about Hawaiian music,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm the world's worst surfer. Okay. So, Chadwick, again, thank you so much for being on. I feel like we should be on every week. This has been fantastic, and best of luck in your
Yeah.
travels to Japan,
Yeah.
and for
Thanks.
a restful summer. The last question that I have, actually, I have two questions because I have another one I want to ask too. A name of a grade two or grade three piece, not a Hawaiian piece, but just anything that you just love for what it teaches students.
Well, the one this semester I did with my concert band, which is our basically our freshman and sophomore band. We did three airs for
Mm,
Gloucester. And that is such a wonderful piece. Like I've never programmed it before, and that air for Eventide was just that second movement was just was so pretty. Like that was the one. I hung our whole entire program off of. It's like, okay, this is the one we need to do the best, everybody. Like we want everything to do that, but we want the audience to feel the work and the time
Mhm.
and the music, the attention to detail in that piece. And
Oh,
they were just, it's such a great piece. It's a great, especially for the moving the line. And we did a lot of I call them drawbacks. So when you have the melody la la da dee dee da, so they'll
mhm.
pull back and then they would go and they would crescendo through the thing. So they did a lot of, it was great. It was great. They did a wonderful job on that.
Well, again, what you're doing is like you're saying, and I tell this to student teachers and other people who will listen. Like, imagine you're playing that melody on your main instrument, or you're
Yeah.
singing it in the
Yeah.
car. Like, what would you do to it? And then all you need to do is tell your kids how to do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
hard. It's not
Yeah.
hard. You'd be like, I would.
Yeah.
So I had a student teacher this past year, and I said, I want you to. He was conducting air for band, Frank Erickson, and I said, play
Hmm.
every single part on your trombone, and then on
Yeah.
every single part, just write down what you did, and then
Yeah.
get the kids to do that. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's gonna sound like there's 50 of you playing the piece.
Yeah. 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 In the concert hall, a lot of them start playing it like they were on the marching band field.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the concert, we're lucky we have access to a concert hall, and the kids don't realize they don't need to play as loud as they do in the band room. Our band room is a little dead. So when they go up to there, they feel like, oh, actually, when I do a crescendo, it's more present, it's more prevalent. So I don't need to, push it as much.
Mm,
And so we're really lucky on that. They don't try to overplay. Yeah,
love
we're
that.
doing a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, in your experience, you know that. So you tell them ahead of time, hey, this room is dead, but when we get to the
Yeah.
auditorium, this is yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So,
So last bit of advice that you might give to you can either think it as yourself 20 years ago as a band director or to younger band directors coming out now. Like if you were able to give them a piece of advice to leave with.
wow, that's a that's kind of a heavy question.
Yeah.
Um, the best advice I can give is just to don't be afraid, don't be ashamed, just go out there and ask for advice because you never know how long that person will be teaching for, and you never know how long that person will be around. I had alluded to, we had talked about Michael, working with Michael, and this is going to be his last year of teaching at the University of Hawaii West Oahu group with us, and it's it's sad that at some point there's going to be a generation of students that don't know his teaching, but also what I said before, like I don't know his teaching back when he was in the 90s because I wasn't a part of his band at that time. um, so, all these you just got to go out. For young teachers, just don't don't hold on to that ego. Don't be ashamed. Like if you see great teachers, you see great things going out there. Go out there and ask, and go and discover those things because you just never know when that's going to when that's going to end. You can see this thing over here. It's
Mm,
a Japanese phrase that says ishazetsume, which means one arrow, one life, or one arrow, absolute destruction, which means like, you only have basically you have one chance to do something. So you're gonna give it your all.
mm.
You have so that's kind of what my advice would be for future music educators and for current young teachers. Like just go out there. You only have once to do it, so get as much as you can.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.